Chapter 2 of DeVoe, Velman, and Bach's Introstats 5th edition concerns itself with displaying and describing data. And much of this is really a review of stuff that you've seen in previous courses in high school. Begins with a compelling example from the Titanic. It really describes the 3 rules of data analysis, which is really to make a picture. It then moves to the idea of how we would display a categorical variable with frequency tables or contingency tables. There's other description here of bar charts, pie charts, which we really won't use very much in the course, ring charts, which are a variant of that, and really foreshadowing some of the aspects of variability and sampling that we'll be seeing. And here, this is an interesting figure because there's actually 24 simulated lifeboats, and one of them is the real and 23 are not. So it's actually useful to be able to think about this as a foreshadowing of what we're going to be seeing later on. Displaying a quantitative variable is section 2.2, and this introduces the ideas of histograms. Again, likely a review. The idea of a histogram where we see the different bars, each with the number of count in that particular range. There's some nice examples. These examples are often really useful to kind of be working through and just checking yourself as things proceed. Stuff we will use a little bit less often, but we'll describe how to do it in R, or stem and leaf displays, and dot plots, which are kind of ways of kind of seeing, again, the individual points. What will be very valuable and is likely new is the idea of a density plot. And here, if you imagine the idea of the histogram bins getting increasingly less wide, that's what we actually get is that kind of smooth curve, which really is going to be a very kind of nice way of describing and giving a sense of distribution. What's important with distributions? It's going to be aspects of shape, center, and spread. Section 2.3 talks about some different shapes and starts to describe how those will be put together in terms of our language of statistics. And then really moves us to a kind of a side point that we're really very much in a different course than mathematics. We're thinking really now about developing judgment and context. Other things, likely review, are described about the measures of center in section 2.4, aspects of the mean or median and the comparison of them, that again most people will have seen, aspects of spread, which give us a sense of variability, and we'll have certain measures that are very non-robust, like the range, the interquartile range, the kind of middle 50%, the idea of quantiles, and then the definition of the standard deviation, a measure of kind of how much deviation we would expect for a given observation. So whenever we think about these aspects of distribution, we're always going to be thinking about shape, center, and spread, and how to be describing and coming up with summary statistics. The book talks through these think, show, tell examples, which really are very useful to kind of take things from beginning to end, and also look through some other examples. As usual, there's aspects of what can go wrong, and the chapter closes then with the ideas of kind of the chapter review. What are the material that's really new in that, and what terms were introduced? There's a fair amount of new stuff in the IS5 and R, a companion for this, chapter 2. We begin by reading in a data set. Remember, we loaded these packages before, the Mosaic, ReadR, and Janitor packages, and can use those to go ahead and then read a particular data set, in this case, the Titanic. We can use something called gfbar. Gfbar is a function that will go ahead and generate a bar chart. And this is an example of this Mosaic modeling language you'll be using throughout the semester. Tilde class says we want to be looking at the class variable as the variable to be displaying. And data equals Titanic says please take this from the Titanic data set. We are using piping here to go ahead and just clean up our labels here for X and Y. And what we see then on the next page is a bar chart for that. This general modeling language, the tilde X, is something we're going to be seeing throughout the semester. Histograms, pretty much the same thing. The only difference here is that we're changing the bar chart to be gf underscore histogram. So that's the function we're going to be using for histograms. Other kind of aspects, we can generate stem and leaf displays. We have to use something called the with function to say, with the pulse rates dataset, carry out a stem and leaf plot for the pulse. And similarly, we can generate dot plots. Density plots, kind of equivalent idea to distributions in terms of histograms, is going to be GF underscore dense, and again, this tilde and the name of the variable. We can proceed through other kind of parts. We'll see how to do other summary statistics. That's all included in the Chapter 2 Companion of R. And again, that's my overview of this chapter. Fundamental, a lot of review.